So you want to be a Kanna. So you want to have beautiful skills that are just wonderful to look at. Well, then you've come to the right class. In the beginner tab, we have Return of the 5 Planets, which allows you to teleport back to Momichigaoka, which is your first area, beginning area. And the other ones are passive. Haku follows you around everywhere. Everywhere. So moving on to first job, we have a passive. It's pretty good. And then we have Shikigami Haunting, which is your main attacking skill in first job. Although mine is the 4th job version, so it's going to be a lot bigger, it's going to do more damage, and so on. But if you press it once, it'll do just one attack. And if you press it a second time, it'll do the second attack. And if you hold it down, or press it 3 times, it'll do the last hit. And it just cycles through the 3 attacks. So that's pretty much your main mobbing skill, I would say. Oh, another thing. With Kanna, I don't truly understand this class when it comes to what skills to use for mobbing. But I chose this map because I want to show that 3rd job it gets much better. So, alright. Moving on to Clay Yaksha. This will... well, let me first put it on my keyboard. So this little guy will pull enemies to you. Yeah. So he just pulls enemies to you, or pushes them I should say. He pushes them in your direction, which then you can use Shikigami to attack them. Ether Pulse is your teleport skill. It's very, like the distance that you can teleport is very good. The thing is that it has a delay. So with most classes, once you hit teleport, you teleport. With Kanna, there's a bit of a delay. It has to go through an animation where it sucks you into the ground and then brings you back up before your character actually moves. So that's the real downside to it. But the horizontal range is 400, the vertical range is, it's massive. 975, that's like I think that's pretty much from the bottom floor, and I can teleport all the way to this one, or somewhere around here. Like from the very bottom down here. Yeah, I could go to the... well, I think that was because I didn't press a direction, but I could tell you about that too. Nope, I can literally just teleport straight up like that. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's so long. Well, the vertical range is amazing. And as you can see, the horizontal range is just as amazing. I mean, not just as amazing, but it's very long distance. Just has a bit of a delay to it. My goodness, that teleport's amazing. So, if you hold a direction and move with it, it'll do damage to enemies in between the area that you teleported. So you just do more damage. Or you do damage to enemies while you teleport. It'll also stun them at a 90% chance for 4 seconds. However, if you don't press a direction and you press the key, it'll teleport you to a random spot in the map, but not do any damage to the enemies that are in between where you teleported. So that's pretty cool, that you can teleport in a random spot. Like, let's say if you're in a big map, you can teleport anywhere, start attacking, teleport anywhere, start attacking. And it really helps later on with the 150 hyper skill. So I guess that's about that. That's it for that. So Haku's... no, that's a... never mind. So that's just a passive. Moving on to second job, we have Rak Yaksha. And this is a bigger, better version of the first job skill. So now a bigger guy does like a shoulder bash and pushes enemies into you. And yeah, it's very nice. Does 4 lines, hits 6 enemies. Shikigami Charm. This skill is pretty much used like a dash skill, because it will like move you forward and leave these little charms behind. And what the charms do is any enemy that's, in them, like walking over them, gets their movement slowed. What was it? Yeah, it gets their movement slowed by 50%. And eventually, after, 5 seconds, it'll explode doing 450% damage. However, you can explode it earlier by using Shikigami. So if I use it down here, and then I use Shikigami, it'll explode as soon as I use Shikigami. Or I guess since that's called Shikigami as well. What I'm talking about is Shikigami haunting. Whenever I say Shikigami, I'm usually talking about haunting. So yeah, Charm will just slow down enemies and also explode when you attack. Or you can leave it for 5 seconds to have it explode on its own. Haku Reborn. So you see this adorable little fox following you? Yeah, you see how cute he is? Well, Haku Reborn allows you to allows you to summon him as a human fox boy. And he'll actually give you really nice buffs. So let's go over those buffs. Breath of the Unseen is the first buff that he gives you, and what it does is it gives you 80% knockback resistance, so you're not going to get pushed around that often, and 40% enemy defense ignored. That is amazing, especially for a second job skill. And then Haku's Gift, which only applies if your HP is low enough for him to use it, restores your HP to 97% of your max HP. So I can't really take damage here, I'll probably show it later on, but he'll heal you if you take too much damage, or if your health is too low. The thing is that it has a short cooldown. I'm not quite sure on what that cooldown is, but it's not like, oh, my HP is low, let me wait for Haku to heal me. He doesn't do it like every 5 seconds, it's like maybe every 10 seconds. Don't rely on him, but he will save you sometimes. So, yeah. Foxfire, probably my favorite one. So, well, aside from Haku's Blessing. Foxfire will protect you from taking damage, status. It's pretty much a shield for everything. I think it also protects from bomb, or maybe not. I know it protects from Zakum arms, so I know a lot of people have trouble with Zakum, slapping them all around, killing them in one hit. It actually protects against that as well. Now that I think about it, maybe it protects against Ark's explosion as well. I don't know, I'll have to ask my Haku friend. Ask my Kanna friend, Yonex. Oh, you know what? I'll give him a shout out later. Okay, so he summons 3 Foxfires. Mine is yellowish orange right now because it's the 4th job version. But they pretty much have the same effect except that you reflect more damage. But you'll have a blue Foxfire, like a bluish white. And what it does is it nullifies damage, pretty much, for 60 seconds. And every 2 attacks will consume 1 flame. So if I go down here, I get attacked. Well, that was a miss, but okay, so they're countered. Didn't take away a flame yet. Counter again, now I only have 2 of them. So in total, you get 6 chances to block from taking damage. And as you saw there as well, he rebuffs you every time the duration is over. So, on top of being able to protect you, it also reflects 1,600% damage back to enemies whenever you get hit, or counter, like I just did. So moving on to Haku's Blessing. Haku's Blessing lasts for 40 seconds, gives you 400 defense, and gives you 48% of your fan's magic attack. Now, it's not talking about the one that you have equipped on your Kanna. No. It's actually Haku. There is an extra tab for Kanna specifically that is called Haku. And you can actually give him a fan. And it'll take 48% of this fan, the one that you gave to Haku, it'll take 48% of that magic attack and intelligence, and give it to your Kanna. So, just to show you exactly what I mean, let me get rid of Haku again. And you'll see that my range is 246 right now, 246k. Once I summon him, and he uses Foxfire, or Haku's Blessing, you'll see that it'll jump up, probably past 300k. Well, it'll do it, there it is. So, yeah, now I'm at 320k. That's pretty good, and that doesn't have any potential or anything. It's just a 70% 2 failed slots fan. That's pretty much all that is. Here, I'll show you what the actual stats are. But potentials do work. Magic attack potentials and percent intelligence. both help the magic attack on this weapon. I believe all the other stats don't act. Oops. I believe all the other stats don't really matter, but I could be wrong on that. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Oh, also, the final damage per party member, the final damage that you get is 5%. So, yeah, just if you're in a party, you're stronger. Next we have Radiant Peacock. This will increase your attack speed by 2. Moving on to Nimbus Curse. This will attack. It has very good range, by the way, but this will attack enemies all around you, basically. And it will leave poisonous gas to do continuous damage to enemies that walk through the gas. It has a 50-second cooldown, but it's well worth using. It does a lot of damage, and covers a wide area. So there's gas up there, gas down there. There's just gas everywhere. As you saw, it covered all 3 of these platforms. So next we have Soul Bomb. When you defeat an enemy, it'll explode, doing damage to enemies around it. And you can see the explosion happen right after I kill them. Burning Shikigami Haunting. This just improves your main mobbing skill, which was, Shikigami. And it gives it extra damage and does fire damage as well. So you see the second hit has, or the first hit, I guess, it makes the first hit do fire damage. Later on we get the second hit, which does ice, and then later on again. Well, you'll see. Alright, moving on to third job, Tengu Strike. Now, the reason that I chose this map is because of this skill. So, Tengu Strike is really good for covering the platforms in this map. So, let's say, someone's bothering you, you just do this, and you cover both of these platforms, and you just teleport to the bottom again, and yeah. Training in third job gets really easy. So what it does is it does 200% damage to 8 enemies 5 times, and you saw that it had 2 attacks to it. So the first attack is they just zoom out. The second attack is they actually stay and do lightning. The lightning does 100% critical hits, so it's always going to be critical. Spirit Coral. I mean, I see a lot of Kannas using it to train. I never really used it. I either used Shikigami or Tengu. But I do see the appeal to this skill. It hits both sides of you, but so does Tengu. Does pretty good damage, only does 3 lines though. And, yeah. So next we have Soul Shear. And what this does is it leaves behind little red orbs. Although I'm one-hitting these guys, so I'll have to show it later. And you can actually explode those little red orbs by pressing the skill again. But, yeah, I'll show that later. Kishin Shokan. This skill is what makes Kanna so popular. When you activate it, it increases the map spawn by 70% and decreases the respawn time of enemies from 4 seconds to 2 seconds, making Kanna amazing for training, or just being a great mule for other people. Sometimes I'll just go to Channel 16 Drakes and see who's there training, and I'll give them Kishin, just randomly. Not very often, but whenever I'm busy doing something else. Blossom Barrier. This puts down a barrier, and anyone that's within it, you or your party members, will have your damage reduced by 30%, or the damage that you take reduced by 30%, and your status resistance will increase by 30%. Has a cooldown of 180 seconds, though. Lifeblood Ritual. Every time you defeat an enemy, you recover 5% HP, but only after they die. So if you can one-hit enemies, you'll never have to heal. However, at bossing, it's useless because the boss doesn't... You only heal after the boss dies. Spirit Path, another passive. Pretty good one, though. Frozen Shikigami is the second hit that I mentioned, which does ice damage, and Let me see. Slows down enemies for 4 seconds. It also increases the normal mobbing like Shikigami's damage. And then finally, in third job, we have Mana Balance, or Mana Balance, which takes 30% of your HP to recover 30 mana. Has a cooldown of oh, does what is the cooldown? I don't actually know. I actually don't know. But there is a cooldown. It's really short though. So let me change maps so I can show you the skill that I mentioned. So here we are. So now I can show you Soul Shear. I can't speak today. So when you attack enemies, these little red orbs will appear in the map. And again, the reason that you want to put points into this skill is because the passive effect gives you 30% final damage. But anyway, so when you attack enemies, these little red orbs appear, and you can have up to 15 of them appear. And then, if an enemy is near them, you can press the skill, and it'll explode them. So if you remember Meso Explosion, think of it like that. It's like old Meso Explosion. So you press it, and then enemies will take a lot of damage, actually. Alright, so that's all I wanted to show there. So moving on to fourth job, we have Vanquisher's Charm, which will only hit one enemy, but it hits them with rapid fire damage. Later on, of course, it hits multiple enemies. But you can jump with it, you can move around with it. It's your main bossing skill. And it's pretty nice. Yeah, it says it only does 3 lines, but later on you can make it do 5, so don't worry about that. So next we have Orochi, which is like a full map attack, basically. It just hits a lot of... It's 15 enemies and does pretty good damage. Has a very, very short cooldown as well. Like I'm almost able to use it again. The cooldown is 20 seconds, and it does a lot of damage, 5 lines, and hits pretty much the screen. Pretty much the whole screen. Next we have Falling Sakura, which, when you use it, heals you and your party members if they're near you, and does damage to enemies. I think it heals 100% HP. Party members, HP. Oh, so 100% of my HP. So it doesn't, like, fully heal everybody, but it fully heals me. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Has a cooldown of 20 seconds. Monkey Spirits. So you've probably been seeing this skill every time I attack. There's a 60% chance to summon this little monkey that throws like this barrel that will do damage to enemies. However, when the barrel hits the enemies, it also pushes them back, and it'll give me 30% extra EXP when it hits them. So Kanna not only has better spawn, but better EXP as well. 30%. Binding Tempest. Binds enemies, so if I use it, they'll be bound for 20 seconds. Every other class in the game only has a 10-second bind. Kanna has 2 binds, and they're both 20 seconds. Bellflower Barrier. This skill increases you and your party members' boss damage by 25%, if you're within the barrier. That's a passive. Dawn's Warrior is Maple Warrior, so it increases you and your party's all stats by 15%. Blossoming Dawn is Hero's Will, which means that you can get rid of abnormal status and be immune to abnormal status for 3 seconds. Haku Perfected is the upgraded version of Haku Reborn. And I think the only difference is that it reflects more damage. Also, I see a typo where it says knockback resistance, 80% knockback resistance and 0% ignore defense. I think that's supposed to say 40. I'm not too sure. But they seem to miss a number there. But yeah, everything else seems to be the same. I looked at it and it seemed to be the same. Except for the reflected damage that you do. because I believe it was 1,400 before. No, it's actually... Wait, so what's the difference? I don't know what the difference is. Is it just that it's orange now? I don't actually know. Like I said, you guys can just help me in the comments, because I don't know. Alright, so moving on to Nine-Tailed Fury. This is another pretty much full screen attack, except it has about a 5-minute cooldown, a little bit over 5-minute cooldown. And it also gives you a buff of 20% damage when you use it. So if you get like a Rune of Skill that reduces cooldowns heavily, you could spam this and Orochi and just destroy maps. Shocking Shikigami. So it'll push back enemies. It's the final like big ball that you see, and it also increases the damage of Shikigami hunting. And last but not least, we have Demon's Fury, which I don't have on my keyboard. So Demon's Fury is... It's kind of like Spirit Coral in the way that I don't really use it, but it attacks both sides of you, and it does pretty good damage to the enemies around you. It has a really short cooldown, I think like 5 seconds. 3 seconds actually. So a 3-second cooldown, very short, very easy to use, hits a lot of enemies around you for a lot of damage. But yeah, I didn't really use it. I mean, I used it sometimes, but not too much. So then we go to hyper passives. I put all 3 into Vanquish's Charm because it increases the number of attacks by 2, making you hit 5 lines. The amount of enemies you hit by 2, making you hit 3 enemies, so now it's your mobbing skill. And I increase the damage. And then for the other 2 points that you get, I did Cooldown Cutter for Bellflower Barrier, allowing you to just put it down like there's no cooldown anymore. So you can just have it all over the map. Let's see, what else did I do? I think I increased the boss damage, yeah. 20% additional boss damage against, boss damage. So, yeah, 45% boss damage, that's really nice. Moving over to active hypers, we have Black-Hearted Curse. And Black-Hearted Curse is a shield that you can have, which just does damage to enemies around you. So you can walk around, you could press your teleport button and the shield will do damage. It's really nice. I really like this hyper. It made training much easier. Or more enjoyable, I should say. Because I don't really have to attack. I mean, I do, but if I was one-hitting these guys, I would just have to go AFK. It's so good. So yeah, it does 500% damage, doesn't get you killed to damage reflect, and it's just an amazing skill. And then we have... Oh, how do I say that? Veritable Pandemonium, which summons a giant foot. And the giant foot will do damage while also binding enemies for 20 seconds. There we go. So now these guys will be bound for 20 seconds, which means they can't move and they can't attack. There is a cooldown of 2 minutes though. And then finally at 200 we get Princess's Vow, which increases you and any other Sengoku in your party by increases their damage by 10%. And of course it stacks with the other Sengoku, Hayato. So you can have 20% if you're both in the same party. Well, I mean if he uses his as well. And that's about it for Kanna. At level 200... Okay, so before 200, this is pretty much how I train. I was just... Oh, hold on, let me take this off. So before 200, or before I had the Vanquish's Charm hypers put in, this is pretty much how I was training. I was just teleporting around, you know, doing Shikigami. I don't know if this is exactly how you're supposed to train. I'm pretty sure it's not, because it feels very slow. But it's how I did it. And then after 200, I moved on to using Vanquisher's Charm to mob. So pretty much like this. And then random teleport. Alright, so moving on to bossing. Or actually, yeah, let's just move on to bossing. So when bossing as a Kanna, I make sure that I have my barriers up. I use the, that skill. And I actually just remembered that I forgot to mention, God, what's that skill called? I forgot to mention, or not even skill. Oh my god, I can't think right now. I'll just explain it afterwards. Oh, it was hypers, that's what I was thinking about. So I wonder if it's worth using the skill where you explode the orbs. Like, let me try it real quick. Yeah, it seems to do okay damage. I think just holding this down is the best option. I think. And that's pretty much the bossing. I'm not sure if I did it right. I'm sure I'll just link to Yonax's channel. He's a very amazing Kanna who's been doing so many videos on Kanna, so many different tutorials. He's a great Mapler, great YouTuber and all that. He also streams, but I don't know if he still streams. Either way, I'm going to link to his channel. And, okay, so the things that I forgot to mention. Here we go, hyperstats. So for hyperstats, add into Demon Fury. It increases your Kanna's mana by 50, so you can have 150 mana. Another thing that I should have mentioned at the very beginning of the video is how the mana works. So Shikigami won't use any mana, but many of your other skills will. And you can't use potions to recover it, it just recovers over time. Or, if you remember, you can use mana balance to give up 30% of your HP to recover more of it. And yeah, that's pretty much what I forgot to mention, so sorry about that. So here I'm going to use mana balance, and I recovered a few of it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry it's, again, once like so long, because there's so much to explain. Why am I apologizing? You guys can just skip ahead or whatever. Anyway, once again, check out Yonax, amazing Kanna, and thanks for watching. Have a good one.